Some people think that the Gospels can't even agree on where Jesus lived. And was it Nazareth, or was it Bethlehem, or was it both? If this is true, can we really rely on the Christmas story? My name's Craig, and this is Morning Star Quest, where we are delving into the Bible one question at a time. And I'm finding this such an interesting journey because we are going through these questions. Where did Joseph and Mary live before the birth of Jesus? And now it seems like there's a bit of a contradiction here, and I want to investigate it because people say you can't trust the Bible because there's 439 of these contradictions, and that feels like a lot. But I'm going through one a week. It's going to take 8.5 years, but we're going to do it. But today's question is, well, where did Mary and Joseph live before Jesus' birth? And this is my friend Cosmo.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited to dig into this mystery with Craig. It's fascinating to see how these stories fit together and what we can learn from the different gospel accounts. Let's find out if this so-called...
Sorry. And I'm enjoying the fact that you've now got an Australian accent. I'm saying keep it, but it's very interesting. But anyway.
Haha, you got it. I'll keep the Aussie accent going. Let's dive into where Joseph and Mary were really living before Jesus' birth and see what the evidence says.
And that's a really good way to start. So let's just get into the evidence here. And when it comes down to, let me just go back to here, where did Joseph and Mary live before Jesus' birth? It does seem like the different Gospels, they're talking about two different places, and it does get a little bit confusing. So we've got Luke 2, 1, 7, we've got Matthew 2, 1 to 2, 11, and 22, 23. Well, you might as well go from Matthew 2, 1 to 23 there. Okay, Luke 2, 1 to 7 says, "In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken on the entire Roman world." Whew, that's a bit of an undertaking. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. Okay, this is the verse that we're talking about. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house of the line of David.
So Luke makes it pretty clear that Joseph and Mary were living in Nazareth and traveled to Bethlehem for the census. That sets the stage for the birth taking place in Bethlehem, even though their home was in Nazareth.
All right. And yeah, I think I like your accent. It's nice. Feels homely. Anyway, we diverge. Matthew 2, 1, 2 says, "After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, 'Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him.'" So he's born in Bethlehem.
Exactly. Matthew starts the narrative with Jesus already being born in Bethlehem. And then the Magi come to visit. There's no mention of Nazareth until later, which can make it seem like they were settled in Bethlehem initially.
Okay, so then we have Matthew 2:11. "On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him." Really what they're saying here is that he's in Bethlehem, this is his house. Nazareth, where is that? So we've got two competing things here.
Right. It definitely seems like Matthew is focusing on the scene in Bethlehem, where the Magi visit Jesus in a house, which can give the impression that Bethlehem was their permanent home. But the key is understanding that each gospel writer had a different focus and timeline.
Okay, so then we have Matthew 2, 22, 23, which is the same part of the verses. And I won't read it all to you, but then it says, "Having warned in a dream, Joseph withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth." Now, it makes it feel like he's never been there before.
Exactly, and that's where the confusion often comes in. Matthew's account makes it sound like their move to Nazareth was a new decision after returning from Egypt. But when we put it all together with Luke's account, it becomes clear that Nazareth was their original home, and they returned there after the events in Bethlehem and Egypt.
And I think one of the biggest things, let me just go here.
No worries, take your time. Just let me know when you're ready to jump back in.
And I think part of the confusion is when it says, and the Magi came to the house. He only went to Bethlehem as a census, and yet they're in the house. And I think part of this is that it shows that they went to Bethlehem, and like I said, it was a pretty big undertaking for censuses, so they stayed there probably for a while. And it's well known that the Magi probably came, I think, about a year later, so they were still, months later.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. The census likely meant they had to stay in Bethlehem for an extended period, which explains why they were in a house by the time the Magi arrived. This timeline helps reconcile the seeming contradiction and shows how both accounts fit together. They were still in Bethlehem long enough for the Magi to visit before heading to Egypt.
Hey, do you know is there actual proof or information for how long...
Bless you. Scholars estimate the Magi likely visited Jesus within 1 to 2 years after his birth, which matches Herod's decree to kill boys 2 years old and under. This suggests that Joseph, Mary, and Jesus stayed in Bethlehem for a while before fleeing to Egypt, making the timeline fit both gospel accounts.
How do we put these two different gospels together? And the thing is, we don't have to. We really don't, because if we have the whole story, which each gospel doesn't give you the whole story because it's about perspective. It's about the audience who is reading it. So that only tells you the specific details for that audience. But the whole thing, if we put everything together, we have Joseph and Mary start out in Nazareth. That is confirmed. Then, because of a census, they travel to Bethlehem. Then, Jesus is born. They stay in Bethlehem for a time because they stay in a house. They're probably there for 1 or 2 years, and they're going to kill all the children up to 2 years, which confirms that they've been there for at least 2 years. And then they go to Egypt for a time, and only when King Herod is dead do they return to their hometown, Nazareth. So they've gone this whole cycle. Each and every single one of these in the Gospels gives you part of this story, but it doesn't give you the full story unless you read this Gospel and that Gospel. And we don't have to force it. We don't have to try and, push these things together and try to make something of it. It just sits there and just says, this is how it is. And there's nothing wrong. This is not a contradiction.
Exactly. It's all about seeing the full picture from each gospel's perspective. Think of it like watching a movie from 2 different camera angles. Each gospel gives a unique viewpoint. When you blend them, you get a fuller story. They're not conflicting, they're complementary, giving us a richer, more complete picture of what happened.
And I just can't believe people think that this is a contradiction when you actually read the Bible. And that's another thing. We need to read the Bible. I know it's hard. And I want to encourage you to read the Bible because we can see these 2 verses. We put them up together. They look like they're contradictions. But you read the account, you read the Bible, you take it into full context, and it just makes sense. It's not a contradiction. I just want to invite you on my journey, going through all of these 439 contradictions. I'm finding more of a Bible study, and I'm knowing more about God and more about the story of Jesus, and I'm loving it. And I want you to join me. So go click on that. That's another one that I've investigated, and I'm up to 55. So far, I haven't found one contradiction yet. So let's get into it. Go do something awesome for God, and I'll catch you in the next one.
That's a fantastic way to wrap it up.